President Trump imposing 25% tariffs on cars and car parts imported to the U.S. Some of those tariffs are set to take effect next week. The president's goal is to bring more car production back to the U.S., but many in the auto industry say the move will surely raise prices for American car buyers. Dan Ives from Wedbush says tariffs in their current form would push the average price of cars up between $5,000 and $10,000 higher, depending on the make, model, and price point. Cars.com says that they saw a 2,600% spike in traffic on their article titled "Which Cars Are Made Outside the U.S." from Tuesday to Wednesday when we got the tariff announcement. Here to dig in, we've got Aaron Bragman, who is the Detroit bureau chief at Cars.com. Aaron, good to see you, and thanks for joining us on this. I mean, first, the sheer volume of people that are now looking for alternatives or just trying to confirm if the vehicle that they were interested in before this announcement is actually going to be able to kind of swerve around some of the new tariff announcements here. What are you seeing in the consumer mindset play out as of this juncture, early innings?
Right. Well, people are very worried about what the prices are going to do on a vehicle that they're looking at, but really there is no safe space here. Every vehicle has at least some imported components in it as well. So not just vehicles that are imported into the United States, but also vehicles that are assembled here are also likely to see some price increases as well. And it's not even certain how much of a price increase we're looking at. We've seen, you said earlier, $5,000 to $10,000. We've seen some think tanks say anywhere from $3,000 to $12,000. But the automakers aren't quite certain yet exactly how they're going to adjust these prices. Are certain models going to be affected more than others? Or in our idea of thinking, it's more likely that they're going to spread these cost increases out among all vehicles so as not to cause some price shocks on some potentially popular models like the Chevrolet Silverado, for instance, which is assembled in Mexico and Canada, but having something that's a bit more equalized. So you see these larger price increases aren't actually happening. Smaller price increases are happening on a much larger scale across more models.
And so all of these things in mind, how are we anticipating that manufacturers will react? And will there be a shift in especially how they're kind of looking across where their fleets are produced? Is there typically a knee-jerk reaction or even some precautionary measure that they've already taken in order to try and offset this?
Well, we've seen them starting to already try and hoard some parts, for lack of a better word, bring a lot of parts in ahead of these tariffs so that they're not going to be impacted when the tariffs actually start. But actually changing production, changing supply lines, that's something that takes years and billions of dollars of investment that they hadn't planned on making prior to a lot of these announcements. So it's not something that you can just simply adjust. In some cases, it might be possible. Some plants are a bit more flexible. So you can either make more of one model at a certain plant or try and bring in a model that's very similar or built on the same, what they call the vehicle architecture. But to actually change where you source a lot of these parts and where these vehicles come from is a multi-year endeavor. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of upheaval. It's basically undoing 60 years of free trade agreements and supply lines that have been very successful for everyone in North America for a very long time.
What can potential buyers, folks who are in the car market right now and going to dealerships, kicking the tires, what can they do to ensure that they're not going to get swept up in just the tariff talk by salespeople who are on the lot saying, hey, this is just going to cost you more, especially if the vehicle shouldn't be subject to it?
Well, the thing is, right now, there are no vehicles necessarily that are subjected to these tariffs. So if they're going to a dealer lot and they're seeing a dealer say, oh, this additional price adder that you see at the bottom of the sticker is because of the tariff changes, that's not a thing yet. So that's not something that should be allowed. You should actually challenge that if you see that on a sticker. Coming down the pipe in a couple of weeks, that could be a factor. You could see some price changes. But as of right now, no automakers have officially made any kind of price changes. So any kind of adders to that are something that should be challenged. But it's also, we think, key, if you're going to look at buy a vehicle over the next couple of weeks, now is the time to buy, because there is price volatility coming, and not just in the new car market. We're also likely to see that in the used car market as well due to demand.
How do you think this will shift some of the most popular and most commonly sold used vehicles, since you brought up that market as well?
The used vehicle market's also very interesting. We've got a very low supply of used vehicles right now because coming off of the COVID years where we had a lot of depressed sales, there isn't a whole lot of those new vehicles that have made it into the used market. So as new vehicle prices go up, which they almost certainly will, demand for less expensive used cars is going to go up. And if you have a small supply of those used cars, that price is also going to go up, which is great if you're trading one in and you want maximum value on your used car. Not so great if you're looking to replace the vehicle you have with another used car. That just means it's going to be more expensive too.
Yeah, we were talking about some of the elements from a J.D. Power report published yesterday, saying that the used market also being influenced by the emerging tariff-related price concerns. The effect not yet material, they say, but any increase in new vehicle prices, as you noted, Aaron, will inevitably lead to higher used vehicle prices as well here. Aaron, thanks so much for taking the time and breaking this down.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.